Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Remenkov. I'm a ruling reality coach, and I'm continuing my series Daily Reality with Alex. Today is 28th of March, 2023, and I would like to speak with you about the reality of guilt. It is a very important topic for me personally, because more of us are not interested in the negative or the dark or the deep side of our psyche and of our reality. But reality is not only the positive side. And if we are constantly going into experience of reality where we are, in a sense, ignoring the negative, ignoring the below, we are not able to be long-term functional beings. And I would like to start with a story about a dream I just had. It was a dream about my mother and father, and they took some money from an illegal lender, something like 100,000 euros, for example. And I realized about this when I saw that this illegal lender was just harassing them and so on and so on. And when I realized about this in my dream, I asked them, why didn't you tell me that you need money? I could help you, and so on and so on. And then I started feeling guilt that actually I was the one that was not helping them, and they were not willing to reveal their problems with me, and they were just trying to conceal what was inside of them, that I was not able to help them as a child in their endeavors. And in this way, I just felt, when I woke up, I felt the guilt that I was maybe not helping them enough. And now in the moment, my father is dead and my mother is already old. But the interesting thing here is how guilt appears even in the subconscious mind of the human being. And I was willing to speak about these so-called low vibrations of guilt and shame, and why it's important for us not to avoid them, but to understand reality, in the sense that these experiences are also important for us. Because once and when we feel the below, when we are able to feel our darkest part of ourselves, because what is guilt? Guilt is a judgment. Guilt is a sentence that we have not performed according to standard. What is shame? Shame is a statement that we as human beings are not according to standards, and we feel that we are, in a sense, in a state that is, we are not worthy enough, or we are not performing according to standards. And then we have the two options: or to reduce the standards and we go more and more into the below, or to ignore the standards, or to create our own standards, or to start believing in the above, in the absolute. But then we are to cope with the guilt and the shame concepts. And the beautiful thing I would like to reveal to you today, which is going to help you a lot, and it is helping me a lot, is to make a distinction between the essence and the appearance. We have heard about the cause and effect principle, but what is creating the cause in order the effect to appear? It is the essence. And here is where shame comes. we are acknowledging that our essence is not enough in order to be able to perform according to the absolutes. And the beautiful or the worst thing, but this is what is the reality in the moment, in the physical matter experience, that there is no human being that is able to meet the absolute standards, and all of us are living in a sense of deviation from what is normal for the above. Because in the above, it doesn't matter how we imagine it and how we are thinking about it. It's 100% absolute. It's no change. There are no secrets there. So the more and more we are able to dwell on the above, it is going to create more and more shame and guilt because of the below that is still in us, because of the imperfection, because of the deviation. And if the absolute and the pure is something that in this physical materiality we are not able to experience in fullness, and if we are only trying to avoid guilt and shame and all the negatives and are trying to cut reality and start believing only in the positive side of reality, because we don't want to look at the above and we don't want to compare ourselves in the above, we start to create our own delusional, positive oblivion, which is as destructive as we as human beings to live in constant shame and guilt because we are not worthy for the above. So is there a solution? And can we alone provide a solution for ourselves? This is a long-term question. And for me personally, I have answered this question when I was 17 years old and when I became a Christian. It helped me to deal with the guilt by the grace of the above. The above is acknowledging that in the moment I'm in a state of deviation, and long-term, a solution is provided for ascension. It is the same with the shame. Yes, the above is acknowledging, and I am acknowledging that I am not worthy for the absolute, and I'm not able to express my essence to the fullness of the absolute and pure. But that's why, through the help of the Savior, I'm able to experience, even if it's mentally, this rebirth process where I am stating that a new essence is provided for me, and long-term, my ascension process is going on, and I'm not anymore afraid of or ignoring the above. Of course, there are other ways, and this is why all these exoteric type of religions were created, but it is more important here for all of us to understand the inner process. Isn't it much more better for us, even if we think that we are just a mindful being and that we are just a mind, to know that there is much more than the mindfulness, that we are in the moment, and that there are possibilities in the above for helping this mindfulness instead of constantly descending or constantly trying to ascend alone, to be allowed to be helped. I know for a lot of humans, especially in the self-development movement, that are constantly ignoring the existence of something more and are constantly trusting only what is inside of the body as a provision, then if we are trying to ascend by our own power, might, experience, knowledge, understanding, the descending processes of the below are constantly going to resist our ascending processes. And then usually the option is to ignore the existence of the low frequency states, to ignore them. And the normal solution for this is just to state the following story. Just imagine that you're in a court and there is no judge and it's only you, and you are self-judging yourself, and instead of self-judging yourself and realizing that you are not according to standard, just walk away from the courtroom and just ignore that standards are existing. Because if we strongly implement in ourselves the standards of the absolute and the pure, then the below is activated as a resistance. And then these forces start working in us. But what I have found out through my experience is that the real winners in life are those that understand failure, that understand the low frequencies, and have allowed themselves to dwell in them. That's why I'm not afraid of feeling guilt, of feeling shame that I'm not able to express my essence. Because this is 100% so. There is not a human being on this planet that is able to perform in the absolutes. Does it mean that we are to ignore the existence of the above, which is constantly influencing us with absolutes? Or are we able alone to ascend without keeping the standards of the absolute? So in a sense, we have a mental firmament that is not allowing anything that is not 100% pure and absolute to ascend. There is a hidden and invisible ceiling through which we cannot penetrate if we are not transformed, transfigurated, and transcended into 100% absolute pureness. And then we have the problem with the physical materiality, where a lot of us are just saying, well, Alex, now I understand it. What you are saying is that the problem is our bodies. If we are able to more and more disidentify from the body, disidentify from life, disidentify from the five senses, we are going to be able to experience more of the above, and then the human beings are entering into the oblivion and the delusion of the separateness of the inner experience away from the five senses, And normally this thing is labeled as death. Death means separateness. Human beings are experiencing death when the body is perishing and when the five senses stops to exist and there is not connection to the physical matter reality. And a lot of us are resisting the so-called matrix of the physical matter reality. And actually it is given to us as a gift in order to understand this below and above interaction, and in order for us to find out that there are possibilities, that there is a door, that there is a way for real ascension process where we are able to constantly go into purificational processes and constantly go in processes where in our human experience, little by little, we are able to ascend. And the paradox here is that if we are in ascension process while we are in the present reality, it is only possible not by ignoring the below, but by accepting and deep diving into our shadows. Because only when we realize how much distraction there is in us, how much self-preservation and survival forces and impulses are in us, even to such extent that if we are put in such a survival mode that there is no other possibility for us to exist, a lot of us are going just to eat each other in order, at least one or some of us, to survive. And this is normal scientific observations. But in a sense, the only counter force to the below and to the descendants tendencies and impulses that are also inside of us is if we, instead of ignoring them, to realize that only through transmutation, transformance, and dissolving with the presence of the above, only then it is possible for us to be more and more ascending beings. And of course, during our earthly experience, we are not going to experience perfection, we are not going to experience absolutes, but we are going and are able to experience much more optimal state where we are able, through the inner experience, not only to influence and manifest in the outer reality, but also to start interacting with the above and also acknowledging everything that is causing descendants inside of us. No one in the universe is requiring from us in this state of being to be absolutes, because it is not possible in this physical matter reality, but it is required from us to choose our path forward and upward, or forward and downward. And that's why, for me personally, the relationship with the above is a primary relationship that is, after this, giving the other type of experiences where we are able to manifest, where we are able to experience the so-called blessings of reality and the so-called desires, in where we are feeling this earthly satisfactions in a sense, though there are so many levels of the desire development in the human being, because in the low states we are desiring just satisfactions for ourselves, but in the higher stages of desire we are long-term and constantly interested in the benefit for all. And this is what I was willing to share today, that it is important to never underestimate and to be grateful for the moments when we feel the guilt, because it immediately gives us the opposite counter force of grace, for example, or the shame, which is giving us the ultimate counter force of the enlightenment and the 100% worthiness, which is hidden but not inside of us, but the above absolute existence with which we are into relationship, where we are constantly renewed on a daily basis. That's why for me it is very important long-term to look a path where we don't feel alone, because reality is created in such a way that we are to learn and to know about the existence outside of the appearance of the essence of the absolute we are calling God. And I have chosen my way. Of course, every one of us is choosing different strategies for existing here in this five senses reality, but it is much more. And don't forget that only to stay in the appearance realm is not enough. It's much more important what is not seen than what is seen. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality, and don't forget that the negative is also created for us to experience. Bye-bye. Enjoy your reality.